So we got two small boat right here right now. So this is another adventure here in San Antonio before we heading home. Yeah, we got the ticket for river
Where our culture
cruising.
awaits.
Okay.
Narrated
Well,
Cruise General.
blessed are those who wait. I thought we were done for the day, but fortunately, they open today.
We're
That
not
would be
rushing to
very,
go
very
home,
nice.
and it's Saturday.
Yeah.
Few rules to go over before we get started. There is no standing, no smoking. Keep your arms, legs, hands and feet inside the wooden rails. Up here by me, still in their wrappers. They've never been used. And if you do, for any reason, find yourself in the San Antonio River today, please don't panic. Just stand up. About 3 to 4 feet deep. Should be all right. Now we're going to start off the tour here. Just after this bridge is an area known as La Villita, or Little Village. And this area was settled by the Spanish soldiers and their families back in the 1700s. If you go up to street level here, there are nice little art galleries and boutiques. It's a good place to shop up there.
Oh, right there.
Now we're heading under Rosita's Bridge. Rosita Fernandez played on that stage for 26 years in the show Fiesta Noche del Rio, which is still in production today. They should have finished season number 64 a couple of August ago, but the whole season was postponed. They finally came back again last June. They played through the summer. They'll be back again this May for season number 65. Over here to the right is the Briscoe Western Art Museum that just recently opened.
Yeah,
A lot of different artwork showing the history of the West, as well as an interactive diorama, the Battle of the Alamo.
Battle.
Under a saddle and a sword are on display in there. I'm sure you've noticed a lot of the trees have lights hanging from them. Just so you know, it takes them 3 months to put those up. They leave them up through the holidays. It takes another 3 months to take them down. Why they just don't leave them up all year, I'm not sure. I think that'd be a lot easier. They do look nice when they come on. Unfortunately, the last time they were on was about 3 weeks ago. So they're in the process of taking them down right now. Now we're going to head under the Presses Street Bridge coming up. It's called an iron ornamental bridge. There are 10 of these left in the United States, 5 are on the San Antonio River. Now this one sits
Mami,
pretty
ulo mo.
close. We're going to try and
Your head,
steer to the
your
middle.
head.
You
Your
might
head
think
on the
you're gonna
steel.
hit your head on it, but trust me, if you don't stand up, you'll be fine. I, on the other hand, went up there as well. Right through the middle here. And just ahead on the right, you'll see a small island with an iron sculpture on it. The sculpture is known as Father Mastonet's Table. That was a gift from artist Rolando Briscoe in 1991.
Rolando
Put there
Arsenio.
to commemorate the first Catholic Mass that took place in San Antonio on June 13, 1691.
Hey! You look
It's also a
beautiful.
heart-shaped island. It's known as Marriott Island. We have over 300 weddings that take place there every year. We had 4 last Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Right there on the
Wow.
the other side of the bridge, we have divorce house.
Yeah. That's a good one.
This part of the river is actually known as Old Mill Crossing. Back in the 1800s, Nat Lewis had his mill on the right bank. He would grind grain for the settlers. And this was also a very shallow part of the river. Settlers could cross, they'd water their horses. Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders used to train right in this area. On the right, we have the Westin Hotel. It was built in 1999, really new addition to the Riverwalk. Surrounded by all these older buildings. So just past the Westin there on the right, there's a darker red brick building. That used to be the San Antonio Drug Company from 1919 to 1963. Now it's the Homewood Suites. Got remodeled in 95. And here on the left is the Tower Life building. This one lights up the San Antonio skyline. Built in 1927 and 1928, it used to be called the Smith-Young Tower. You look all the way up to the top of the tower, you'll see these concrete structures jutting out of each of the 8 corners. Those are known as gargoyles. They serve as a rain drainage system, so when it rains, the water comes out of the gargoyles' mouths into the gutters below. Now, if you look just above the trees over here to the left, you'll see these angry little scary faces kind of snarling down at you. Those are known as grotesques. Now, the whole building is an example of neo-Gothic architecture. The original owners, Smith and Young, were fairly superstitious. They put all these things in place to ward off evil spirits and bad business. Unfortunately, 1 year after the building opened, the stock market crashed. It cost over $3 billion to build it and to sell it for less than $30,000.
Oh wow. Woo.
Saying much for gargoyles. show you a neat little effect. When we come out from under this bridge, take a look back in the Tower Lifeboat. You'll notice that it's transformed into a ship. So it's coming out the river. Use your imagination just a little bit. It's a nice little Leonardo DiCaprio hanging up in front of him. There on the right, the International Center. That was the San Antonio Main Public Library until 1998. Now it has the offices, the San Antonio Conventions Bureau.
River
Also
crossing
right above
here.
one of our marinas where we dock some of our boats at night. And directly in front of us is Old Big Red. That's the Bexar County Courthouse, built in 1896. It's made of red sandstone and granite. One of the oldest and largest continuously operating courthouses in Texas. Now, just in case there's any cross traffic here, I have to honk the horn. Don't be alarmed.
There's a green line.
So this part of the river that we've been on, this is all the natural flow of the river. It's a natural horseshoe bend. The river flows to the left. We're going to head to the right into a man-made part. We're entering into the flood channel. We're just leaving through floodgate 4. Now, it rains really hard. Floodgate 4 will rise up out of the water like a drawbridge. It keeps the water at the exact same level in the horseshoe bend at all times. So there's never any flooding back there. The hotels, the mall, the restaurants, they're all completely safe from flooding. That doesn't rain very often in San Antonio, but when it does, it can rain really hard, really fast. Flooding used to be a huge problem for downtown. In 1921, we had a flood that caused a lot of deaths, a lot of property damage. So the Army Corps of Engineers came in here, built this flood channel for us. That put an end to all our downtown flooding problems. There were a lot of prominent businessmen that wanted to fill in and pave over that other part of the river we were just on. Make room for more buildings and streets. But lucky for us, 2 women had the foresight to put a stop to that. It was Emily Edwards and Raina Maverick Green. They formed the San Antonio Conservation Society in 1924. And a few years after that, there was a graduate from the University of Texas by the name of Robert H. Hutton. He designed the entire Riverwalk at the age of 27. Presented his plans to the city. The city approved it in 1929. Still wasn't completed until 41 after the Works Administration took over.
Thank you.
Hutton is still known as the father of the Riverwalk. He designed every walkway and staircase, every planter, lamppost, and bench. Everything you see in the Horseshoe Bend is pretty much Hutton's design. Now, we didn't design this walkway over here on the right. That's fairly new. It's been there about 15 years. That was a gift from the Brewery Plaza Hotel. It's an 850-foot walkway that connects floodgates 3 and 4. Now you can walk all the way around the horseshoe. Over here to the left, through the trees, hard to see anything back there, but it's Main Plaza. Established in 1731 by Spanish settlers from the Canary Islands. It used to be the heart of the city. There's also San Fernando Cathedral back there, built in 1739. Still houses some of the remains of the heroes from the Battle of the Alamo. Now, people always think that the San Antonio River is just a small river, or it's man-made, doesn't flow very fast, but it actually starts just about 6 miles north of here, the campus of Incarnate Word University. And it comes up through springs from an underground lake known as the Edwards Aquifer, flows through the zoo, through downtown, goes about 230 miles southeast of here, where it meets up with the Guadalupe River, flows out to the Gulf of Mexico. You see that big tree right in front of us? It's the oldest and largest cypress tree in San Antonio. It's over 350 years old, over 9 stories tall, also known as the sniper tree. Back in 1835, there was a Texas patriot by the name of Ben Milam. He was staying in the Fairmount Palace, which was right behind us. He was shot by a sniper from that tree right there.
That.
Oh.
And now we're going under floodgate 3. This one comes down like a guillotine. Where they start their random testing till afternoon. And it takes about 15 minutes for that to come down completely. It does weigh 3 tons. It comes straight down. And coming up on the right is the Esquire Tavern. That was the first bar on the Riverwalk. They opened the doors in 1933. And they opened the day after Prohibition ended. Just took down the barbershop pole and it was business as usual. They say it was a speakeasy before that. Also has the longest wooden bar in Texas at 108 feet long. And here on the left is the Brewery Inn and Suites. That used to be the City Public Service Building back in 1921. Just to give you an idea of the severity of that flood, if you look at the top of the first floor windows, right where the 3 shields are, that's how high the flood of 1921 reached. It was a major flood. Great example of how we like to take an old building, give it a second chance and a new life here in San Antonio. We try not to tear anything down before we help it. Coming up on the right, you'll see tourists in their natural habitat. Going over ticket locations here. This is at the Aztec Theater. The Aztec over here to the right was opened in 1926. Used to show silent movies. They've just finished about a 3-year-long run with the country and western show called San Antonio Rose Live. They have have a live music venue on now. Rumor has it in the next few months the House of Blues will be moving in. That should be something to look forward to. One of the last remaining Mayan theme theaters left in the United States. We're about to go under Selena's Bridge, named after late singer Selena Quintanilla. She was photographed on this bridge, as well as Jennifer Lopez, who played her in the movie Selena.
Really?
So partially filmed right up here.
Selena.
The beige building over here on the right, that's the Mocara Hotel now. But it used to be the home of the L. Frank Saddle Ring. From 1901 to 1923, they outfitted Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders, as well as Mexican revolutionary Francisco Pancho Villa. Right before World War I, they provided boots, saddles, and harnesses with the United States Army. And on the left is La Mansión del Rio, or Mansion on the River. It used to be the site of the St. Mary's School for Boys back in 1853.
I'm running out of storage, so
And it was the
you
St.
just
Mary's
continue.
Academy,
You just
St.
continue
Mary's
this when I'm
Law
out,
School.
okay?
1966, two former students from the law
Other
school
camera.
purchased the building. They
No, I don't have
remodeled
it. I didn't
opened it
have.
up
I
for
didn't bring it.
Hemisphere in 1968. Still has some of the original artifacts from the boys' school in the lobby and in the lounge. Now we're going to head under the Navarro Street Bridge. When we come out from under this bridge, I'm going to show you a really cool optical illusion. When we come out from under the bridge, everyone take a look up and to the left, where once stood a 26-story, three-dimensional building that's been replaced by a 26-story, two-dimensional wall that looks like it might fall right down on top of you. Take a look up and to the left here.
Look at this.
Yeah, nakuha na ko na yan.
That's the Nix Hospital right there. It was built in 1930. One of the country's first full-service, fully air-conditioned hospitals. Had everything from ambulance service to daycare to indoor parking. Carol Burnett was born in that hospital, as well as Oliver North, Michael Nesmith from the Monkees. This part of the river here is known as South Bank. This is where you're going to find a lot of the nightlife on the Riverwalk. Until we quiet now, give it another 8 or 9 hours, people will be lined up on the sides of the river screaming at every boat that goes by. Throwing things at the boat drivers. They say it might be too cold tonight. Scare people off.
Magnolia?
Yes. Magnolia trees on here.
How did the cold, freezing temps affect on?
So far, not too bad. The year before, we had 3 days where we reached 9 degrees. We lost a lot of fruit trees. We had lemon trees, orange trees, papaya trees. They all died. But a lot of the palm trees had to be taken out as well. But this time, I think it was all right. Just, I think it only reached 24 degrees. I think they wrapped some of them. But some of it, yeah, some of it didn't fare too well. You can see. Maybe they'll bounce back. Over here to the left is the Hyatt Regency. It was built in 1981. The Alamo is just on the other side of the Hyatt. You can go right through those glass doors back there. Walk through a series of waterfalls and gardens. When you get to the top, it puts you right across the street from the front of the Alamo. Now, an interesting side note about the Hyatt Regency, when it was being designed, it had to meet strict height requirements. It wasn't allowed to cast a shadow on the Alamo at sunset. This building over here on the right is the Casino Club building. It was opened in 1927. It used to be a German social club. And later became apartments. There was a famous author that lived there by the name of Alex Haley. He wrote a lot of books that became movies. Probably most notably was Roots. He lived there. Also actor Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh.
In that building for just a little while. Now we're getting into my favorite part of the Riverwalk. This is River Square. This is where you're going to find the majority of the restaurants. Tantalizing worlds. Now normally we offer a dining boat service. We can go to any one of these restaurants and set that up. You can get a breakfast boat, lunch, dinner. If you just want cocktails, you can get a cocktail cruise. That was on hold for a while. Finally back. It's a nice way to enjoy the Riverwalk. And we have one dining boat scheduled tonight. Now, the Riverwalk first opened in 1941. It didn't look a whole lot like this. It's more of a city park. does take the family out, have a picnic. The father and designer of the Riverwalk, Robert H.H. Hubman, he had a different vision for his designs. So he put his office here in the building on the right. That's the Clifford Building. Hubman's name is written above the first floor. And he put his office there to prove to everyone that a business could thrive on the Riverwalk, that he wasn't afraid of flooding. And people thought he was crazy at first. It took a few years before the businesses started to follow suit. This restaurant coming up on the right is Casa Rio, first restaurant on the Riverwalk. They opened the doors in 1946. They were the first ones to do the riverboat tours, as well as the dining rooms. They also just celebrated their 75th anniversary last October. So we're going to be leaving the natural flow of the river one more time. We're going to head on to another man-made part. This is the bottom of the horseshoe. Where we are. This part of the river that we're entering was built in the 1960s for Hemisphere. Now, if you're not familiar with what Hemisphere was, it was kind of like the World's Fair. Named to San Antonio in 1968. We had 7 million people come to town for Hemisphere over the course of 6 months. So they built this part so people could take river taxis from the natural flow of the river to get to the convention center. And people loved the Riverwalk so much during Hemisphere. They kept coming back, bringing their families. Tourism really started to grow as a result of the Hemisphere of 1968. It kind of put us on the map. Now, if you ever want to move to San Antonio, if you're living here already, want to open up a business, we have the Chamber of Commerce on the left. We have all kinds of information for you. This message brought to you by the Chamber of Commerce. Now, since this is a man-made part of the river, there's no natural flow to it. This part of the river is lined with concrete. The rest of the river has a mud bottom. But there are still a whole lot of little critters that live here that don't realize that this is man-made. We have tilapia, perch, catfish, sunfish, crawfish. A lot of snakes in here. We've got turtles too. Turtles are nice.
Are we allowed to fishing here?
There are lots of fish, you're just not allowed to catch them.
Oh, okay.
But they built this waterfall coming up on the right. And for some reason the waterfall's not been switched on today. Just imagine water cascading off those rocks. The waterfall's there to keep the water flowing, keep it filtered and aerated, keep all those little critters alive and well. Today is not doing any of those things. And just to the right here, over the wall through the clearing, you'll see a tower. It looks like the Jetsons' house up there. That's the Tower of the Americas. That was the centerpiece of the Hemisphere of 1968. That's also the second tallest freestanding tower in the United States. And it's second only to the Stratosphere in Las Vegas. We're actually 16 feet taller than the Space Needle in Seattle. Stratosphere is 1,000 feet tall. Ours is 750 feet. Stratosphere has some sort of ride or roller coaster, bungee jump or something on theirs. We have a restaurant on ours that spins once every hour. Not quite as fast.
Oh, it's spinning also, Mama.
Is this taller than Dallas?
Yeah, it's quite a bit taller. Yeah, we have restaurants, the Chart House restaurant. Things like surf and turf stuff. You can get a pretty good view of the tower over here to the right. That section over there to the right takes you to the convention center, but that stop sign over there to the right says we can't go back there. Not exactly sure why. Must have been the stop sign. Has everyone had a chance to get to the shops at River Center? You haven't, I don't want to ruin the surprise for you, but it's a mall. It's not like every other mall you've ever been to, but it sits on the banks of a river, so that makes it kind of special. We're headed to the River Center Mall Lagoon right now. You can check it out for yourself. The mall has 125 stores, there's a food court, an Aztec Theater, a comedy club. There's also a purple store. If you like purple stuff, totally sell. Apparently there's going to be some purple things. It's very popular. Also just opened up a Dave & Buster's at the mall. We've got this Margaritaville coming up on the left. They've opened the Legoland and an aquarium called Sea Life. Got some new things going on at the mall. There's also a new section of the river that we won't cover on the tour. It's an extra 1.2 miles. It's been added in the last 13 years. It's called the Museum Reach. It opened May 30th of 2009. Now, normally, you can get there by boat. You can take one of our Rio shuttles. Unfortunately, the Rio shuttles are not running, but if they were, they'd pick you up. They'd take you through a lock, raised 9 feet, and out to the Pearl Brewery, which is now the Hotel Emma. A lot of different shops and restaurants up there. Normally, they do a farmer's market on the weekends. There's also the San Antonio Museum of Art and the VFW. Post 76, the oldest VFW post in Texas. It's right down the river and open to the public. So check out the Museum Reach if you get a chance. You can still walk up there. It's probably about 3 miles if you go by the river. Uber ride's probably about 5 to 10 minutes. So choose wisely. It is to the left here, over the mall, is the Marriott River Center. That was built in 1988 when the rest of the mall was built. And the only reason I pointed out is before it was there was another hotel there. It was the Fairmount Hotel, built in 1905. Now in San Antonio, we don't like to tear down any of our old buildings. So what they did with the Fairmount, they loaded it up on pneumatic tires, and they moved it 6 city blocks to where it is today, on the corner of South Alamo and Nueva. And that move is in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the largest building moved that great of a distance. The record has recently been beaten, but we did set the record back in 1985. It took 6 days to complete the move, over 5 years of planning and paperwork. People lined the streets with coolers and lawn chairs. The whole thing was televised. Everybody wanted to see this building go down the street at 0.04 miles an hour. It's a big, exciting time for the city. It's a week before the paint drying festival. Fairmount still in existence today. Go check out the lobby of the hotel. They have all the newspaper clippings there documenting the event. As the sculpture coming up on the left, it's covered in tarps but hasn't been unveiled yet. I've been working on it for about 7 months now. I don't know too much about it other than it's called Stargazer. It's done by an artist named Pedro Reyes. I believe the unveiling is scheduled for March. They had scaffolding on it not too long ago. I think during the week. Sometimes you'll see them out here. Cranes and they're dumping cement. They take the weekends on it. Over here to the right, you'll see a large bronze statue. And the statue is San Antonio de Padua.
Oh man,
St. Anthony.
St. Anthony of Padua. Yeah.
St. Anthony was a friar in the 12th century from Portugal. That statue was a gift from Portugal for the hemisphere, 1968. And St. Anthony had a huge role when it came to the naming of this river. When the Spanish explorers first came upon the river, it happened to be June 13th, 1691, which
Feast
was the
day.
feast day
Yep.
of St. Anthony. So they called the river the San Antonio River.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
prior to that, the river was known as Yanaguana, which is a Payaya Indian dialect that means place of peaceful waters. It is take us to the end of the tour. Almost back where we started. Make sure you take a look around your seats. Make sure you haven't forgotten anything. Oh, we had a great time on the tour. Just so you know, tipping is allowed. It's accepted. It's greatly appreciated by our drivers. I'm going to dock the boat up here and tie it down. Give you a second to get everything tied and secured before you stand up. I'll let you know when it's safe to stand up and exit. Enjoy.